Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Wednesday. Oh, I had to check what day it was. I was like, I'm sure we have had a Monday, haven't we? We had a Monday. We might have had a Tuesday. I'm just checking. Okay. Somehow we're in the middle of the week already. It's amazing. I feel like I wasted a whole day yesterday. It was just too cold to go anywhere, so I did some shopping in the morning. Which I haven't done for a while. So that the cupboard was bare, like in old Mother Hubbard's house. So I had to go out and do something. And I've decided I'm just going to live on soup and coffee and tea for the next couple of days. So that's all I bought. And then I got home and I pretty much didn't move from one room the entire day. I just stayed in the warmest room I could find, and I didn't go anywhere. I didn't leave until I had to go and shower in the evening and get into bed. That was the only time I moved into a separate room. So it was I feel like I wasted the day a little bit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like a slob. I was basically a slob.
Is this eating plan of yours for the next couple of days the sequel to your first fitness book? You know, your first fitness book is Eat Less, Exercise More. And now the second book is...
Please, it was Eat Less, Run More. Let's get that right. Yeah.
How dare I got
I mean, it took me a long time to write that book, all right? Don't just say it like that, like it's just a thing that I threw out there.
What's his name?
Oh, man.
Is shaking in his book. Is shaking in his boots with your book.
He should be. My book's much better and it's easier to read and more people could digest it, which I think is very, very important.
It is a lot to digest, Gareth. You know, I had to break it down. I had to read it over a few weeks, but wow,
yes,
it really moved me. Thank you.
Yes, well, if you take it a page at a time, I find like that's when that book does its best. You know, you're not digesting thousands and thousands of pages and so many words. I mean, it's just for many of us, it's too much of an issue. Who has the time? Who has the time? Even if you do take your fitness seriously. So yes, the Eat Less, Run More diet is definitely the way to go.
And now
you're only a slob
by soup. Eat soup.
Correct. I mean, and now because if you only eat soup, then basically you know there's just nothing solid for your body to turn into fat. It all just goes straight through you, especially if it's a vegetable soup, which is what I have. So then you lose weight the natural way. You just basically you give your digestive system nothing to claw onto, and then you eventually, you lose like kilogram after kilogram. It's fantastic.
I reached my soup quota when I first bought my blend. I don't even know what that appliance is called. Is it
a blender?
It says whatever. All I know is I've seen it at many kitchen teas as a gift.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
yeah.
I was so excited about it when I first got it, easily 3 years ago, that I just wanted to use everything as an experiment. Can you make tomato soup? Can you make carrot soup? Can you make...
Right.
I would just...
Do you just put everything in there?
Yes. I actually had to be called out by my flatmate and my friends, like, stop it with the soup now, because that was my specialty. Come on over, guys.
Do you remember
whirl it about?
Do you remember when we all went through a NutriBullet phase where everybody at Cliff Central was making juices of every kind? We were just all making... Yeah. I remember I bought one. And we just made juices. And it was like, I think Dory's still doing it, but the rest of us fell by the wayside. Like mine is still around, but I must be honest with you, I don't use it. So it's stupid because it's such a good machine. Like you could put anything in there and turn it into a juice, and it's way healthier than 90% of the stuff that we eat and that we fry and that we grill, and so it's still a way to go. But I must be honest with you, I've got to go and check if mine is still functional. Go and see if it probably needs a deep clean, because it's been lying in the dust and in some back of some cupboard for such a long time. It's probably got a family of cockroaches living in it by now.
Oh.
You never know, hey? Like that always scares the hell out of me. I discovered the other day there was this leak under the coffee machine, and it was so gross. By the time I eventually got to it, I just had to use bleach and disinfectant and shit. And I'm uptight about that stuff. So now I've reconfigured the whole thing and tried to figure out how to make it much cleaner. I can't stand a mess. You know me. Ridiculous. And we'll talk about a mess in a minute. I've got some info for you on how Singapore deals with its trash, which is pretty fascinating. I mean, Singapore in some ways is just, they are leading the way. The people of Singapore are just way, way smarter and quicker and cleverer and more adept at dealing with just about anything than I am. And I mean, than anyone in the world is, basically, except them. Let's welcome somebody to, can I? They're the ancestors, sorry. I might lose. Sorry.
He's on the tree.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly do that. I need to let the dog out of this room, and I've closed the door. Oh, for fuck's sake. Just give me a second. I know. I irritate you. What do you want, Carl?
Who let the dogs out?
I know. Isn't it pathetic? This is what we have to do now. How professional is this show? Let me add to this morning's agenda by welcoming O'Neil Madumo, who's someone that Cliff Central audiences have known well for the longest time. O'Neil, you're like, we can see just the bottom half of your head. How you doing, bro? Let me just switch on his microphone here. I think I can unmute him. You need to unmute yourself there, dude.
Cool.
There he is.
I just did that.
There we go.
How are you, man?
Hi, guys.
That looks like a very comfy room that you're in there.
Do I look asleep as I sound?
No. Welcome to our world. This is what we do every morning. You must hate waking up at this time because you're a night guy, right? I mean, like you stay up late and wake up really really late as well. It's the only way to live.
I don't even think I slept comfortably because after Sia's call, like I slept so shallow because I kept on thinking. In fact, I had a dream about you, Sia.
Oh no! You were sleeping on standby.
Yes. This is bad. I can't remember the last time I woke up around this time. It was a while ago.
Poor Sia. He's the guy who the rest of our audience, anyone who's ever been a guest here, he's the guy who's ruined their lives because he phones them at like, every hour of every day before they're on and has to check because I mean, listen, he's not doing it to be a pain, but people are so useless and forgetful. He has to, and even for the TV show now, he has to call people like 100 times just to remind them, hey, you're on tomorrow. And then when they come on eventually, he also has to call that morning to make sure they're awake and that they're there and that, they haven't disappeared. So poor Sia is like the bad guy.
If there's anyone who would be great at doing that, it's Sia. I mean,
he's very good.
No, he's good at it. He's extremely cunning when he does it too.
Oh,
he makes
is that?
When he's friendly.
He mentions all these nice things like, you just get up as if it's a small thing. And then if you want to go have coffee, you can go have coffee or champagne.
You know what? Give me like 3 more days and I'll master the violin and that'll be my new way to wake people up. Like, hey, okay, so I'll send you a text at this time and then I'll call you at this time. Then if you still aren't awake, I'll just walk into your room and start waking you up very gently with a violin. That's what people need. But we understand. It's not
so O'Neil, what you missed in the first 5 minutes is we were talking about how I wrote that brilliant diet book, Eat Less and Then Run More, which was a huge bumper seller on international book bestseller lists.
Yes,
and I'm writing a follow up to it, which is just soup. That's all it says.
I mean, that's right up your alley, G. That's you.
Exactly. That's me. That's what's people don't know this, but that's what made me famous. And now, Carl is trying to be clever here because he thinks that I don't know what I'm talking about and I'm not an expert. So he says, Gareth, I'm not sure you understand how the digestive system works. Just because soup is liquid doesn't mean your body doesn't digest it and you cannot get fat. Highball. So, all right. What I meant, and now you forced me to be crude about this, but basically, if you only eat vegetable soup, your shit turns to water and you basically... it falls out of you, dude. It's not a question of I know, but he wanted me to go there. He needs me to explain this to him like a child. So if you have soup, it's just very good for you because essentially the vegetables and whatever else is in the soup, provided you don't go and put tons of carbohydrates and shit in there, they will They will be like a what would you call it? A digestive. That's what they do. It's very good. It's very good for you. Trust me. Ooh,
so doesn't it make sense that if you are going to drink soup, then you would shit soup?
Well, I mean, that's my experience that it does tend to open up the sluices at that area. I mean, that's what I think.
Yes, soup for soupy.
Yes, correct.
So,
yeah, exactly. I mean, this is not rocket science, Carl. I thought you were smart. What a fucking stupid comment.
This is not even a conversation I like having with my doctor. I don't want to.
Well, I mean, you asked me now. You're questioning my bona fides when it comes to writing my books about the diet. Carl. I mean, come on. This is what I take this very seriously. Nico says though it's too cold for juices. My apples in the fridge for 3 weeks now. They still look good. Yeah, it's amazing. Hey, when it's cold like this, things just don't go off. I noticed I bought bread last week and it lasted the whole week. And normally bread by the 4th day in the summer is like starting to, develop its own life. But
no, this is true. This is
so
true.
cold.
I also bought, I think it's scones or something from Vovotelo because I have such a sweet tooth. It's a bad thing for somebody my age. So I've got like sweets everywhere. So it's been lasting, and I've been saving money thanks to winter. And I really hate winter because I'm from a desert. I'm from Botswana. Botswana is as hot as you can imagine. So whenever it comes to winter, it becomes a struggle. But I've been realizing the same thing as well, that I'm able to keep whether it's vegetables for long periods of time. So this has been good. This has been good. At least this is the one good thing I can take out of this.
Tell me, Oneal, how often do you get to go back to Botswana? How often do you see the peeps back there?
Yeah, not as often as I used to. Because of the volatility in the situation. I mean, the COVID situation is pretty similar to the South African one. Botswana does a lot of trade with South Africa.
Sure.
So that being the case, there's a lot of caution between Botswana and South Africa as far as borders go. So I try not to, because of how small the population is, I try not to expose my family to it. So I moved from going every week to every 2 weeks, then I moved from 2 weeks to every month, and then from that it's like every 3 months. But now it's like once a year. But my son does come here. He prefers coming down here. My mother does come here. I don't come from a big family, so that also helps. I do have like extended family members who I am the odd cousin who doesn't show up for family events.
Oh, and I'm sure that brings up issues.
Then you have problems because then they think you're ignoring them.
Yeah, but I think that being a DJ for most of my adult life, I think it helps because they always assume I'm sleeping until like 1 in the afternoon. So
and they're just not used to having you there.
Yes. So so that helps.
We always tend to think of every country as being equal to every other country, and we forget that in South Africa we've got a population of some 60 odd million. In Botswana, you guys only got like 2.3 million people or something.
Yeah.
Small.
It's a very small
really
population.
Small. I mean, that's like the population of, I don't know, Bloemfontein or something.
Yeah, it's that small. Botswana is.
And most of the people do live in Gaborone. Most of the people do live there.
Yeah, the population of Gaborone, the last time I checked, was around 250,000. It could have grown. If it has grown, it is probably just around 300,000, but not much. It's a very small country. So when we have a pandemic like this, we have a lot to worry about.
Yeah, of course. The smaller the country, the kind of harder it hits if it gets in there.
Imagine if we did the same numbers as India. Knock on wood.
Oh my God. Yeah, Jesus. I mean, I still don't know how they're coping, but The reason I ask though is because I know you get around, like you actually travel, you know, doing the DJing, and you're back on that. Hopefully, it's picking up again, because that was shut down completely for a while. And you travel the whole of South Africa and Southern Africa. In fact, I mean, it's not odd for me to hear from you, and you're in either Zim or Botswana or like Namibia or South Africa or some part of South Africa that, you know, I didn't expect you to be in. So anyway, it's been a while since we've had you on Cliff Central. I had you on the TV show not so long ago.
Yes, and that was fun.
And people miss your show. I mean, they, you know, I get not a week goes by where we don't get an email from somebody who says, you know, I miss those shows and I miss O'Neil's show, because your show was always like full of really cool stuff. And you still keep in contact with all those musicians.
I still call you OOC just based on the show.
Exactly.
Yeah, look, I keep in touch with them. In fact, it's funny you mentioned that. I ran into a record executive. His name is Oneal. I think it was in Pakistan over the weekend, and he says to me he's traveling. I think he is French, but I think he was going to the UK or something something to do with his artist. This guy, by the way, owns, I think, the biggest catalog of South African music. He bought it, I don't know, from whether it was Samro or something like that. It dates back to the 60s. So anyway, so I ran into this guy. He has brought in a couple of artists onto my show. I ran into him and he says to me, dude, I want to get back in the game. And I said to him, why? I mean, there's a lot of young people now podcasting. He says, no. There was a way in which you conducted your interviews and you had such a rapport with the artists. That is something that I didn't realize myself, you know. So now I'm only hearing those stories now. So, you know, to add to what you were saying, a lot of people are asking for it. They feel like there's a gap in the market for what we were doing. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe it's time.
I think what was so cool about it is that you didn't just do these interviews with these artists. You also used to make them play in the studio for you, which is always, you know, any performer is always better at performing than they are being put out of their comfort zone. I mean, most people, you know, even if I've interviewed musicians, and I have, you know, 1,000 times, they prefer doing their thing, which is making music. So if you put them in a situation where they're comfortable, they're playing their music, and then they're talking to you, to them it feels like they're just jamming with friends.
No, that is true. That is the language they understand. You mentioned that just 2 days ago. I discovered I'm a huge fan of rock. So 2 days ago, I discovered on YouTube, I think it's the 2013 35th anniversary of Toto, of the band Toto.
Oh, wow. What a great band. Oh my God.
It's amazing. You need to watch that thing. It's like 2 hours long. What I picked up about, I think those guys speak in those 2 hours, they probably speak about 4 times. And it's just in between songs, but throughout the time, they are just performing.
There's so many of those songs that just immediately make me happy. I mean, I mentioned that there was this friend of mine who came out to visit from America a couple of weeks ago, and he's back now in Dallas. But I took him to in fact, there were about 5 of us who all went to the Toto concert when they came to South Africa. This is like, it was Standard Bank Arena. It must have been in the late 90s. Wow. And yeah, I mean, you know, they weren't in their prime anymore, but my God, can those guys play, hey? And Steve Lukather, who's their guitarist, when that guy plays the guitar, oh my God. So this friend of mine is a guitarist, and he's a session musician, and he can play pretty damn well. I mean, I'd say he's in, I mean, when he was in South Africa playing, he used to play for recording artists, and you know how hard that is. You have to just do exactly the same thing over and over again, and it's harder than people think. But I remember watching him, standing there watching Steve Lukather, and he had like tears streaming down his face. He was so into it. I mean, I've never been to a concert and started crying, so that took me by surprise. But you know, they've got so many good songs, that band, and I just love the fact that bands like that have lasted for decades. Not just, you know, they don't have the lifespan of, I mean, God bless him, but even like Justin Bieber's finished now. I mean, he's done, right? He doesn't do anymore.
That is a very good observation, because
he did like 10 years, and now he's finished with that. And Toto, they were there for probably the whole of the 80s, the whole of the 90s, and their music is continuing to live on. I don't know anybody who's still listening to Baby from, Bieber.
No, this is absolutely true. I think Toto was formed in 1977. They performed throughout the 80s, the 90s. They performed throughout the time, and I think they've only lost. I think one of their members died in 92 due to some form of cancer. But these guys were they're such a well-oiled machine. One of the things I think that made them so great, even when I was watching the show itself, is that each one of their iconic songs has a different lead singer.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
So that's how they were able to sustain themselves throughout the performance, because Africa will be performed by someone else vocally, and then Steve will do something else, and that made such a diverse.
I remember at that concert they did Africa, which obviously everyone went crazy for, because we all think that they wrote the song for us, and maybe they. I don't know, but it is like if there was an anthem for the continent, it might even be in the top 5, right? And even though it's rock music, anywhere you play that in the world, there isn't a person from Africa who's not going to like, hey, that's mine. So that was great. And then they played Hold the Line, which is also just amazing. Hold the line. Da-da-da-da. Love isn't always on time. What a great song. And then you think it can't get better than this. And then they went off stage. I mean, the fact that I still remember this, however many years later, is ridiculous. And then they came back for an encore, and I was like, what are they going to do now? They're going to repeat one of those? They came back and they did Rosanna. All I want to do when I wake up in the morning is see your eyes. Rosanna, Rosanna. There isn't any way you could top that. I mean, I just like it's just so goddamn good.
Nah, it's a listen, man. It was such a joy. I couldn't leave my house. Like, for 2 hours straight, these guys were not even breaking a sweat. And vocally, they are still there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sia, we apologize profusely for this confusing period in your life. We know, this is... we're speaking Mandarin.
I just realized, Gareth, as you reference like 1999, perhaps, that's more than 20 years ago.
Yeah,
it's so long ago, dude.
It's so long ago. For a moment.
And great those great bands, they don't age. They keep getting better. It's just amazing. There was something I wanted to say about this. You need to, just this morning, before we get to the headlines, Oneal, you need to quickly do one of those. You watch enough YouTube to know what it is. Do that like and subscribe shit for us, because we force everybody to do it because I'm so bad at it. So what you need to do is you're on screen on your own. Just how to get people to do the like and subscribe, because otherwise, if we don't remind people, they don't do it. Go for it.
Oh wow! Yeah. Sia, why didn't you tell me about this part?
just go. Hey everybody, don't forget to like and subscribe, and then you point at you know what to do.
Hi everybody, this is Oneal. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you like the content you're seeing right now. We'll be back just now with you.
There we go. You see, that's what we need.
Everyone knows how to do it. Exactly.
Everyone. Because we've all seen it a million times.
Way too much. And now we're in that space, Oneal. We have to ask people to like and subscribe.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, that's the part I hate about watching things.
Yeah.
Well, I'm always like, no, we get it. We have to subscribe. I'm always saying that. So
I think Tracy's being rude about Botswana here. She says 2 million people, 5 million donkeys.
Wow. The animal jokes, right? You know what, Tracy? You might think you're trying to be funny, but you're not, because we have such a strange relationship with animals in Botswana. I think animals account to easily about 50% of road accidents.
Yeah,
in Botswana, that's one.
I've heard that.
Yeah, so we have 5 cows to each person. By the time you're 5 years old, you have minimum of 3 cows. They've already been assigned to you. You have a minimum of 3 cows, maybe 5 chickens, and then 5 goats, and then 5 sheep by the time you're 5 years old. As a matter of fact, interesting story. The first university in Botswana, University of Botswana, when it was first built, the community each contributed 2 cows towards the building of the first University of Botswana.
That's fantastic.
You can use cattle as collateral in Botswana.
I think you can even do it in South Africa, but you guys have a much more of a relationship with that than we do. I love the fact that everybody contributed, because then, of course, everybody feels that they own a piece of the university, so they look after it. Problem in this country is that nobody, everybody in South Africa thinks it belongs to the government, which it definitely does not. Yeah. And then, and that's why we burn shit down. And, if we are angry that the train hasn't pitched up today, we burn the station down. We forget that it's our money. It's our collective investment that we're destroying. It's very weird. It doesn't happen in Botswana, thank God. Anyway, Oneal is with us, and we're going to be talking to him this morning, and he's going to be hanging out with us for the first hour and a half of the show this morning. We've also got something very cool happening a little bit later on, which I want to tell you about. It's got to do with wellness and health and how it's a bigger deal than ever. This morning, we're going to tell you where you can go to find credible medical advice, because God alone knows we're all trying to find that information more than probably in any other year.
Dr. Google.
No. The worst thing you could do is go on WebMD if you're not a doctor. That stuff will confuse the hell out of you. And we'll talk to the people from Sipla this morning. In fact, we're going to speak to the CEO. His name is Paul Miller, and see what they have to tell us about all of this. That's, of course, a pharmaceutical company. And, the pharmaceutical companies get given a really tough time, but I think we have a lot to be grateful to them for after this pandemic. It's shown us that they're the ones who developed the vaccines quickly. They're the ones who came up with solutions. And although people say terrible things about pharmaceutical companies, I think we owe them a debt of gratitude for having helped us through this pandemic as quickly as they have. There's no way that state research could ever have kept up with the way that they invested back in, did the research and development, and came up with these things.
Look, I think every industry has its chinks. I think I would rather have somebody who steals from me but then tries to save my life than our favorite politicians who take everything for themselves. Like, that's always very bizarre to me. If you're going to steal, not that I have any level of understanding on stealing, but just logic dictates, if you are going to steal, if there's 100 million at your disposal, can you at least steal about 50% of that, and then the other 50%
you can keep things going? Yeah.
But no, not here.
I think it's so sad that we've reached that level in our country, in society, in the world, where we go, actually, okay, fine, we're lowering the bar to say steal, but don't steal too much. It's actually really sad.
Well, there was this brilliant there was a brilliant tweet that went out just the other day from somebody who said, hey, politicians, let me help you out. The better the economy goes, the more you have to steal. So help us get the economy going. That's how you have to talk to these assholes in politics, because that's the only language they understand, is how does it affect their bottom line? So maybe that's the way we've got to talk to them. Say to them, look, if we're all making more money, there's more for you to steal. If you actually help people to not be poor and impoverished, if you help us create jobs, if you deregulate the economy and let people work, if you create the opportunities that make business easier, then there'll be more for you to steal. That's how we have to tell them. Anyway,
incentivize
all right.
them.
I've got to get to some headlines here. Let's hop into that quickly. While we're on politicians, we may as well depress ourselves with a bit of headline news. Stage 2 load shedding is going to start today and run until Sunday. Oh, thanks a lot, Eskom. This is great.
It's fun.
Yeah, from 10.
My God, Eskom implementing stage 2 load shedding from 10 a.m. on Wednesday until Sunday night. In a statement released on Wednesday, the utility said that rolling power cuts were due to delays in returning generation units to service at, listen to this, Kusile, Tutuka, Duva, Kendall, and Koeberg power stations. All 5 of those stations are causing shit now because they haven't been looked after properly by these idiots at Eskom. These people who we pay way too much money to give us very crappy service. And of course, that's because...
reiterate, it's the worst time for this to happen. But I have to just share quickly. I thought I was dying in the middle of the night last night. So I had the heater on in my bedroom, and load shedding hit my area at about 8 p.m. So I actually went to bed with the electricity still off. But what I didn't realize was that the heater was on. Did I not wake up at about 1 or 2 a.m.?
It was hot.
The room was so hot. And I just opened my eyes and I'm just seeing this like red all over. I'm thinking, am I in hell? I was so like, I was so parched even. I was feeling dizzy. Okay. I didn't even have, I had to sum up the energy probably to get up and switch everything off now.
But that's the problem. That's the problem, right? Like around that time, like you've built up enough sleep and you're so comfortable in your position that you feel like any amount of activity will throw the sleep off. Like you're going to lose
and
sleep.
It does.
Because it's the TV you have to switch off, the lights, all of that.
There's another problem here, and this is a much more serious one, is that I reckon there are probably a lot of fires because of this. You know, we hear often about these houses that burn down, and we hear about shack fires and all of that stuff because people go to sleep having forgotten what they left on, and then the load shedding finishes and everything comes back on, and people don't realize like there's a blanket over the heater, or there's something that they left on in the kitchen that they shouldn't have left on. Man, that's dangerous as all hell, because we do already have a problem with that in South Africa, and this is the time of year it happens more than any other time. All right, so while we're talking about Eskom, of course, Eskom's disaster is because the ANC has run it badly, but the ANC has pockets of really bad and pockets of even more bad in them. I mean, here is a story about the MKMVMA. That's the Mkhonto weSizwe Military Veterans Association. They say they remained in the dark. The ANC's National Working Committee on Tuesday went ahead and appointed a preparatory committee to take it to its elective conference. This is all about internal politics again, but you know how this is. We have to pay attention. The National Working Committee held a meeting on Monday, and the MKMVMA, which is spearheaded by Kebi Mapatswe, he's the guy who was in the porno with the one arm. You remember him? That's how we remember people in this country.
I still hate you for making me Google who he was just to see the one arm, and then now my imagination runs wild to what the porno was like. Anyway.
Did you find the actual porno, Sia?
Oh, yeah. There's a video of him. He's paying some woman after they've had sex, or he's busy like getting her something. It's crazy, dude. And he's standing there, and I think he's in his underpants, or he's even completely naked.
Was it nice underwear at least? Sia? Was it nice underwear?
I didn't watch that. Thank you very much.
No way. It's so bad.
But it's funny and sad how we judge people like this. I still remember.
That's all we remember.
Do you remember Joost van der Westhuizen's scandal? All I remembered about that, all I took away was that Joost had
the underpants.
A hole in his underwear and socks. Thought, from Springbok legend to holy underwear.
Yeah, that's it.
Look, we go through a lot in Africa.
Yes.
We go through so much.
Apparently the former generals have been roped in to help the two warring factions in the ANC's former combatants to hold a united conference in the coming months. They're going to call on Kebi Mapatswe. He rang a bell insisting there were attempts to dissolve his association. He now said he believed that was not the case. So they can't even decide what's happening in the ANC. But there was another story, and we'll get to this in some detail a little bit later on. Did you hear about the woman who had 10 babies?
Oh, yes, gosh. I saw that. There's a hashtag even.
Yeah,
National Baby Shower.
Yeah, we'll get to that just now. Before that, though, Health Minister Zweli Mkhize has apologized for the fallout from the Digital Vibe scandal as calls to sack him get louder. The minister answered questions from journalists during a visit to health facilities in the Northern Cape on Tuesday. He says his intention is not to dodge questions, but to make sure he fully cooperates with the SIU investigation. This is so funny because, as I said, don't forget that Zweli Mkhize was the guy who was the ANC treasurer during the Zuma years. So he was the guy in the ANC who was responsible for making sure that they got donations and that they accounted for their money during the Zuma years. I mean, that should disqualify you immediately, right?
Let it just be known, though, that the minister and his team announced on Monday evening at about 11 p.m. that he'd be in the Northern Cape doing this visit, and they welcome the press to ask questions. You are sending this out at 11 p.m. You're going to be there on Tuesday morning. Who do you think was able to read that in time?
And he's in the Northern Cape. And he's in the Northern Cape, which is there's less people in the Northern Cape than there are in the furthest parts of Botswana. So,
guys, I'm still stuck on the name of the company, Digital Vibes.
I know it's so bad, right? Isn't it terrible?
Like Vibes, that should have been the first thing.
Yeah,
this first sign of concern for me. If I were to sit down with anyone and they were running a company and they said, "My company is called Digital Vibes," that's like a boyfriend showing up to their in-laws' house and they ask him what's your name, and he says, "My name is Killer." Like that's
exactly.
That's the first thing we have to deal with.
Well, you want to watch you want to watch our TV show tonight because Litlem Simang had something similar to say about Dr. Zweli Mkhize, and you don't want to miss it. That's this evening on not on Cliff Central, on ENCA channel 403 at 10 p.m. They've moved the time. Yeah.
But let's all be comforted. Yes, Gareth?
No. Go on.
Let's all be comforted by the fact that with Dr. Zweli Mkhize on leave, we have a trusty new minister in his place. That is our
tourism.
Yeah, formerly Minister of Tourism and now Minister of Health in these great times for health, right? All we need is someone who's an expert in tourism. To step in.
Yeah.
Who's the minister?
I have no idea.
I'll tell you now.
Oh God! ANC just redeploy people. They don't even have experts in anything.
I know her name is long. That's what I remember. It's actually quite long.
Let's see what this name is. I'm interested.
Ngubani.
Oh God, she was in charge of communications. She was the one I presented to in Parliament with Thibaut Touch about reducing the cost of data, and nothing fucking happened there. I don't believe she's got any value to add there. I mean, she's not a medical expert, so she's stepping in.
Yeah, like the correlation between tourism and health to me it still eludes me.
What a stupid
I don't know,
idea.
Maybe she's going to make sure that borders are open. I don't know what her mandate is.
But the one good thing that came out of it, that came out of it when people are analyzing this redeployment, is that people didn't even realize that deputy ministers are not part of cabinet.
Exactly.
Because the natural thing, the most natural thing in this particular case would be, okay, so the deputy minister of health will obviously take over.
Correct.
And,
that's what you think.
Yeah, so they're not part of cabinet. So they have to be appointed in order to be in those roles.
It's stupid. It's so obviously... I mean, like if the president's not there, the deputy president takes over. If a minister's not there, the deputy minister should take over. But that's not how it works. Deputy ministers in this country are just, they're basically, it's sheltered employment. That's the only way I can describe it.
Vibes.
Anyway, there is a very sad story that comes from Burkina Faso. Thousands of women and children have fled, have been fleeing Burkina Faso. 7,000 people from the volatile north of the country following the bloodiest massacre in a 6-year jihadist insurgency that continues to get more and more violent. Steps have been taken to give displaced people a minimum level of comfort, lodging, and foods. That's from the Prime Minister, that statement. Apparently, his advisors told AFP 7,600 people had fled to Seba, which is the capital of Yaga province. It's around 15 kilometers from the scene of an attack on a certain village. 7,000. Can you imagine 7,600 people picking up their stuff and fleeing?
Wow.
You know? That this still happens.
This
is the kind of thing you expected this to happen, like, back in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, even maybe the 70s. But in 2021, for people, 7,000 people to pick up their stuff and flee. It's just bizarre. So Burkina Faso.
We've also grown so insensitive to this. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
If I just feel this way, it's almost like 7,000 would be acceptable, as compared to like
I know what you mean.
10,000. So that's how we view these things now. It's almost like, no, at least there's 2 people. It's not like 10 people. But no, one person should not die. One person shouldn't have to be displaced because of a power struggle between two people who don't seem to get along. Like, that's just ridiculous to be able to have to deal with this today.
Or in this case, it's like an Islamist jihad, which is just so ridiculous. I don't understand why people are still trying to punish other people by the sword. It's just madness. It's really, really stupid. And obviously 7,600 people, guaranteed that most of those are women and children who have no option but to run because the men are at each other's throats or have already been killed, or, it's always the women and children who have to pick up the slack, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very sad.
Yeah.
You know what the capital of Burkina Faso is? My favorite capital city to say.
Is it No, is Djibouti a country or city?
Actually, don't know.
Djibouti's a country. It's Ouagadougou.
Oh,
Ouagadougou.
Ouagadougou. Yeah, and you spell it O-U. It starts with an O-U. Ouagadougou. How's that?
Sounds like the sequel to Waka Waka.
Yeah, or something they call out when people are being beheaded. Like, I don't know. It's just
oh
my God.
Ouagadougou.
Oh God! Let's not make light of these people's suffering by making fun of their stupid capital city's name. All right. In a story which, there's not a day that, or rather a week that goes by that we don't end up with some rich person making the news, and this week is no different. Details claiming to reveal how little income tax billionaires in the US pay have been leaked to a news website. ProPublica says it has seen the tax returns of some of the world's richest people, including Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Warren Buffett. The website alleges Amazon's Mr. Bezos paid no tax in 2007 and 2011, while Mr. Musk paid nothing in 2018. A White House spokesperson has called the leak illegal, and the FBI and tax authorities are investigating. Now, why would the White House be jumping on this, calling it illegal? Surely the White House would be jumping on this, going, well, let's check these people out, because there's no way that someone who has billions and billions like those guys shouldn't be paying any tax, right?
You know what? I find myself, like, I really have zero to add on this, because for some reason I stopped paying attention to the White House the minute Trump left. There was just nothing interesting for me going forward. I find it very bizarre. Like, honestly, do you know, I find myself actually looking for links where I can find Trump. That's how much I miss Trump.
Because he was at least entertaining.
Yeah. So one way or the other, he got our attention. We got interested in politics. We got to have in-depth knowledge on what really goes on in the US, because he exposed everything. Everything was on Twitter. And now I find myself having to, the irony is that I don't find the news that we see on the feed credible, because I feel like it's too prepared and there's just like some kind of sinister motive behind it.
I've never thought of it like that. But when you knew it came from Trump's account, it was him speaking directly. Interesting.
There was transparency. That's what we're missing about this entire thing. There was a level of transparency. Sure, it wasn't the usual prepared establishment rhetoric, but there was a level of transparency which we don't give him credit for.
Well, you knew what he was thinking, right? Because he didn't hold back. And even though a lot of the stuff that he said people had a problem with, you've got to admit that you did at least know that this was coming from him. This woman, this Jen Psaki, she is in charge of the White House press corps at the moment. This woman here, you remember her? And she just looks like, first of all, she looks like the kind of person who would be able to lie with a straight face on any given subject.
Of course.
I might be being mean here, but she looks exactly like the type of person who would say to you, "There's nothing going on over here," while she was stealing your wallet with her other hand. I mean, that's the impression I get.
She also looks like a younger Kate Blanchett, like.
No.
And
she had, anytime I've watched her, every time she answers a question, I've struggled to believe her. I really do. And it's not because it's not because I don't like Joe Biden, which I don't. And it's not because I don't consider him a crazy old man. I just think that she's the kind of person who's she's just a spin artist. That's what she's there for. She's there to spin stories. If she was your girlfriend, you would always be going, Am I being duped here? Is she lying to me? Is she putting up a front? Is this a story that she wants me to believe? Anyway, let's move on because there's more news. I do want to talk about that woman who had 10 babies, but that can come up in a moment or two. We've got to talk about Singapore for a second. I mentioned this. That's such an amazing country. There's stuff that happens in Singapore that blows my mind, right? Even the way they handled the coronavirus. I remember right from the start, they seem to have done that better than anyone. Now, this is quite a long clip. It's like 2 minutes, but it's worth watching and listening to because this is how they deal with rubbish in Singapore. And I was sent this by Gideon, who listens to the show, and I think it's just brilliant. Just take a listen to this. If it gets too long, I'll cut it off halfway, but it's worth taking a look.
Singapore is a tiny country. It's this big, and it has no space for trash. So here is how they got rid of it. First, they collect the entire country's trash from here, here, and here and drive it to this big building to burn it. Inside this incineration plant, there is a fire that burns 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And this 1000 Celsius degrees fire eats the trash away and generates heat and energy to light up thousands of homes.
From our incineration process, we harness the heat to generate electricity.
But here's the crazy part. This fire behind me doesn't even hurt the environment. When you burn trash, it generates toxic smoke like this one. And these guys filter out the smoke in a complicated process to make it so clean, cleaner than the air around you. So this chimney at an incineration plant emits clean air.
The air come up from the chimney is smaller than 1 micron, which is very, very clean.
By now, 90% of the trash disappears in a couple of hours and the remaining 10% turns to ash. This ash, just like the smoke, is toxic. They take it and ship it far away to a man-made island where they dump all of it into a special water that doesn't touch the ocean water. And there, ash stays underwater forever, hidden from everyone. This process is so clean, the corals are still alive, the jungles are still green, and the animals are still around at that island. In other words, Singapore collects trash, burns it, creates electricity, filters out the smoke, hides the ashes underwater, and makes this trash bag disappear in 1 day instead.
I just love that. You know, they've thought about this. What a great fucking country compared to, here we have like these huge open air trash heaps all over South Africa. And I mean, listen, there isn't a street you drive down in South Africa where someone hasn't just dropped some trash as they walk.
Yeah.
Singapore, are an example to everyone of how we should behave. If we ever have an alien invasion and we behave like Singapore, they'll take us seriously. If there's an alien invasion and we behave like we do, they'll just turn around and leave.
Yeah, it's I mean, look, they're very organized. And isn't it like the second most dense country in the world in terms of population?
Yeah. Because I mean, it is tiny. It's a city basically, and it's so beautiful. They've got the most amazing buildings. People. Yeah, it's beautiful buildings, and it's just, I mean, it's a dictatorship, so it's not a democracy, but it's a benevolent dictatorship. It's run by people who actually have the interests of the society at large as their priority.
Is that what people think Rwanda is?
Well, yeah. I mean, they talk about Paul Kagame, and they say that at least Rwanda. Listen, I mean, there's lots you could say about Rwanda being a terrible place and a bad place, and not necessarily the freest place in the world. But that guy keeps an iron grip on people, and again, it starts with the little things like trash. You know, if our politicians, if our leaders took rubbish seriously, and the only people who take rubbish seriously in this country are those poor rubbish collectors, who I wish well, because they're actually doing more to save the environment than any environmentalist person in a suburb who's driving a Tesla. Those people are actually picking shit up and gathering it together and taking it somewhere. So at least they're cleaning up around them and around us, because we can't even keep ourselves clean. I have I have a warm kind of feeling when I see those people pushing that stuff around, because at least you know it's being either recycled, or if it's being thrown away, it's being collected before it gets thrown away, so it's not just lying in the streets.
I think that's one thing. It's even a poetic, not in such a good way. There's even a poetic sense to this, in that you have, I mean, the widest the gap in terms of between the rich and the poor in this country, and most of the time you find that people who are on the lower end of the spectrum are the ones who get to do the dirty work, like picking up the trash. But where I'm going with this is that how painful it must be to go around picking after people who are doing much better than you. Even their trash is better than yours. The stuff
it must be soul destroying.
I mean, South Africa is one of the few countries where people make even a living out of picking up trash. And you know these guys who walk around with like big bags, who collect like cans to go and sell them in the middle of the night, man. I mean, how unique is that? It's also one of the most heartbreaking things to see.
Well, it shows you how desperate some people are, but it also shows you how innovative and ingenious they are. They're so resourceful that they find a way of turning trash into, making a living. Because they're not doing it out of the kindness of their hearts. They're actually making some money out of it. Not a lot, but they're making a living, which is more than I can say for, those of us who just drop our shit where we walk. I mean, I've never understood that. If you see people doing that and it doesn't upset you, then you're just not paying attention. You're not paying careful enough attention.
Look, I'm OCD. I'm OCD. So my levels of it's behavior that I really struggle with. How you can make a mess and not pick up after yourself. It's just like, it's something I'll never be able to understand myself, because I think somehow it's a metaphor for how you view your own life and how you conduct yourself, even in your social spaces, like how you, whether it's business or your relationships. I don't see how a person who doesn't pick after themselves can actually be a good partner in a relationship.
I completely agree with you. I wouldn't be able to live with someone who's a messy person. There's not a chance. I mean, it would drive me crazy. It's all I think about.
That's
I got to throw some of these comments in before we break for 7:00. Jeremy says, I feel sorry for the environment in South Africa. Rubbish thrown everywhere. I've stopped doing street and beach cleanups because the citizens just don't care. Jared says Sweden has to buy trash from neighboring countries because their trash incinerators are too efficient and don't have enough trash in Sweden alone to run. That's amazing.
What?
You buy other countries' trash.
Wow.
And Yonda says, I watched a documentary on Singapore 2 weeks ago. From desalination, underground roads, buildings on top of buildings, growing plants inside and upwards, 3D printing. That's a country of the future. Yeah, I think that's so good. That's just amazing. We have to be kind to the trash collectors in South Africa, says Hermine. We divide our trash so that they can have a single bag with recyclables that they can just take, and they don't have to go through all that horrible shit. Yeah, because if you put like food scraps in with glass, and what they're trying to do is separate it into glass, plastic, paper, because that's the stuff they can recycle and they can get paid for. But they don't get paid for chicken bones and like ashtrays and all that other shit we throw out. So that's really cool that Hermine brings that up, because that's something we could all do. It's very impressive to do that.
Yeah, the separate trash. I never thought about it. That's actually a fantastic idea.
Yeah, very nice. All right, when we come back, we've got lots of things to talk about. We've got O'Neil Madumo with us this morning, and we're going to get your comments on YouTube. You can also comment by sending us a WhatsApp to 0797482090. Let us know what is up. It is Wednesday on cliffcentral.com.
Coming up on Auto Central.
Well, I think there's two things to consider, right? There's things that you can do during ownership of the vehicle, and there's things that you can do just before you sell. But the thing that's going to really, really kind of save you the most money is just maintenance. Keep that maintenance up and just make sure that you're up to date with your services, because that's, going to impact how the car drives in the future for the next owner.
Catch Auto Central, SA's #1 motoring podcast, every Monday at 9 a.m.
Do you suffer from collectivism, collectivity, collectionitis? Do you have an obsession with objects? Are you a fanatic, a devotee, an aficionado? Cliff Central dispenses a weekly dose of collectomania. Join me as I talk to compulsive collectors. Fascinating, intriguing, possibly a little weird. Collectomania, Mondays on the Gareth Cliff Show. Brought to you by SA Gold Coin Exchange and the Scoin Shop. Righty, and we will have some more Collectomania for you on Monday next week. It's turned out this is one of my favorite parts of the week. We get to talk to people who collect all kinds of weird stuff, and we spoke to a guy this week who collects match boxes and tobacco products and all kinds of other shit too. But he's got like the world's biggest, or South Africa's biggest, matchbox collection. It's unreal.
Oh, shit,
like
millions.
Everybody has their thing, hey. Oneil, do you remember when we used to have?
Archies.
You collect what?
The Archies.
Oh, really?
The comic books.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
Wow.
I was going to ask you because the obvious thing was like when we used to DJ with CDs, that was a thing. I mean, I used to have the biggest CD collection. You collect the Archie. There's the comic. That's amazing. The Archie comics. How many
do you have?
I think I probably have 3,500 now.
Wow, my God, that is a real collection.
Yeah,
sure.
No. I've got tons of these. Yeah,
that's amazing, dude. That's great. I was never really a comic guy growing up, but I know so many people who most of their reading in their childhood was comics.
Yeah, look, I grew up in a township, so I only interacted with the comics when I had to go to the library, to the National Library. So it opened up like this world to me, which I wasn't a part of growing up. So I appreciated them so much. Like I look forward to. We even started stealing them at some point. Like we go to the library to go steal them. So it was such an eye opener for me. I would get to learn how, so how social spaces work. I mean, between the characters themselves, that created a world that I look forward to see. Imagine your favorite series today. So that's exactly that's the feeling I got in my stomach.
I got you.
Every time I came across a new comic. So I think the need to collect, it's almost like I'm paying tribute to my younger self and how far I've come from the person I was then to the man I am now. It's like it's one of those things I can't even explain it.
Wow.
That's a nice story. I like hearing about the reason people collect these things, and it's one of the reasons I love what we do on a Monday now, because it just lets you into people's psychology a little bit as well. Some people they grew up with very little, and therefore their collection is almost like putting the middle finger up to how little they had when they were younger. For some people it's just an obsession.
Yeah, for some people it's like a weird hoarding obsession. That's a way to be on TV, like the cat lady, the woman with so many cats. So one of the things that I do collect is, in 2003 I lost my elder brother. He was 28 at the time, to a terrible car accident. So he was a huge fan of heavy metal and rock and roll. I think that's where I get my love for rock from. So growing up, he would dress up like them, like the leather pants and all of that. But we had so little, and he wanted to own the merchandise, the T-shirts, the AC/DC, the Iron Maiden. He wanted to own that, and I think he probably had like only one of them. So by the time I was able to make sense of life and earn my own living, this is after he died, I started collecting those T-shirts, and I don't know where I'm sitting now. I probably have 100 of those.
God, that's incredible.
From every rock band you can think of, from Iron Maiden, from Aerosmith, Def Leppard. I like those. So Guns N' Roses, all of that. So I've been collecting those. Every time I wear them,
you think of your brother.
I think of him. It's so bittersweet because I'm like, he wanted this so bad, and at the time, I didn't get that appeal. But now it's like I have this in abundance, and unfortunately, he passed before he could realize this. So it just brings me closer to him every time I do it.
If anybody said to me, what does Oneil collect? The two things I would not have said was Archie comics and metal T-shirts.
Yeah.
Things that just shows you shows you how you think you know people, and then they come up with this stuff. Listen,
Yeah.
we've got to talk about the story that had everybody on the internet talking yesterday. A woman who gave birth to 10 babies, Josiame Tamara Sitole from Tembisa, who gave birth to 10 children at an unnamed Pretoria hospital. And the government say they're unable to verify if she actually did have 10 kids. Apparently, the story is that she gave birth to all 10 children at a Pretoria hospital. The communications department said that the public must please let us know if they have any more information, so they can't keep track of this. Ekurhuleni Mayor Mzwandile Masina also said they tried to find out where the family was with no success. I would be worried if I were her and the government were this interested in me. But obviously, it's a story that has left the nation shocked and excited. You know, the national baby shower was the hashtag. Ooh. Many started to contribute for the family, so people are raising money for them, which I thought is really sweet.
I think it was Lindiwe Mazibuko who I don't know who came up with the idea, but yeah, it seems to be taking a life of its own. But do you remember the KFC wedding?
Yes. Those people who got married in KFC. Yeah. That's right.
I feel like that's where it's going. I feel like it's going to go there. Well, at this stage, it seems people are still trying to figure out whether or not this story is true, because nobody seems to have an idea. How do you hide 10 babies, though?
Well, it's such a big story too, because I mean, imagine being the parents. Well, certainly the father in this case, because as a dad.
Oh no.
I mean, you're expecting maybe one child. You see your wife is really, really big before she gives birth. So you're thinking, well, maybe it's twins, maybe it's triplets, but then 10 babies are born. I mean, there's no father in the world who can financially prepare for that, right?
So I'm a little confused with the reports that they can't find her, because according to IOL, the father and the husband spoke to them to confirm all of this. He was the one who allegedly confirmed that his wife gave birth at a hospital in Pretoria, and said she gave birth to 7 boys and 3 girls. She was 7 months and 7 days pregnant. He says that he's happy, he's emotional, he can't talk much. And then he says, oh yeah, let's talk again in the morning, please. That's his direct quote. But it has been quite a journey for them with this pregnancy, because the couple were both in disbelief earlier this year. They were said to be expecting 6 children, so 6 tuplets. Before then, they had further scans that showed them, in fact, no, you have octuplets, so 8 kids. So they were still going around just thinking, oh, we're going to give birth to 8. And then
the Octomom,
when you give
remember
birth
her?
To 10 all at once.
Wow.
Woo!
What would they call those? Is that decuplets?
I
will tell you.
It's some long name.
Yeah.
Deck is 10, so I would imagine it must be decuplets.
Now, according to IOL as well, the couple already have 6-year-old twins. So clearly they just have a trend of multiples in their family. Yeah.
No, but you know what? Sometimes, when people have this many children who are all born at the same time, there's usually some kind of fertility treatment that they've been on. But if this is natural, if this is all natural, my God, then these are the most fertile people in the whole universe. We need to figure out whatever they eat, figure out where they live, figure out where they come from, because
not do it.
Yeah, I mean, we must ask Paul Miller when he comes on just now from Sipla, because I'll tell you what, if they did some research on this family, you'd be able to develop the world's best fertility treatments for anyone, anywhere. It's just, it's phenomenal.
But the process of giving birth.
Oh my God, can you imagine how exhausting that is? 10 babies.
I'm just corroborating the information that I can find. And according to Pretoria News, her pregnancy was natural and she wasn't on fertility treatment at all.
Wow, that's phenomenal. I mean, that must be some kind of world record. There are people saying here, Carl says, for example, if I were the dad, I'd be asking for DNA tests on all the babies. How does he know they're all his? Well, come on, they're not all going to. be from different parents, different fathers, because that would be impossible.
Have different fathers. Like,
So, Gareth,
contribute sperm like that.
Oh gosh! on 2 points, to clarify, you are right. So, firstly, the term is decuplets for 10 kids born all at once, and then secondly, she did, if this is all true, break a world record. The previous world record was held by a woman in Morocco who gave birth to 9 children all at once. But now this woman has given birth to 10. She is the current Guinness World Record holder.
Good for her. I like when we can claim a world record. We'll take it. Thank you very, very much. That's nice. Yeah. So there it is. And if people are trying to raise money for you, then you guys better step up. I know that you've got your hands full with 10 children, but if Twitter's trying to raise money for you, that's one of the few times in the world where Twitter does something good. And it would obviously be really, really cool if we can help.
Do you realize how many records they can still continue to break? Like the first one that comes to mind, it could be the first single family to pay that amount of school fees at the same time.
Good point.
Oh my God.
There's so many firsts.
I don't even know how she was standing at this point with 10 babies inside of you. Man. You must have been on bed rest or something.
I mean, there was a picture of her. See if you can try and find that. There was a picture I saw, and we'll try to share that with you. But you could see she's pretty big at the time that she's about to give birth. Big woman, because she's got 10 kids inside her. That's just unbelievable. And
the space between the babies. Like, I'm just trying to figure out. I wish they had filmed it, because it's like, how? What happens? Is it minutes in between? Are they counting?
Oh,
where's the father? At what point did the father faint? Because at some point, he must have fainted.
I would have fainted after number 2. Like, I've got enough money. I've got enough money for 1, and now I've got 10.
With a calculator. Like, okay. Okay, no.
Oh, Jesus. It's unbelievable.
Oh no! Yeah, I'm just you know they're buying him a round of drinks though at the pub for
oh my God,
having this many.
Oh, look at them! Shots.
He doesn't drink, obviously, because he's a member of the Zion.
Oh, he's a ZCC.
He's a ZCC member. Both of them, it seems. So chances are he doesn't drink.
Listen, do not dispute me or fight me on this, but just looking at this picture makes my ovaries hurt.
Well, she must be pretty exhausted. I reckon after giving birth, most women feel like they need to take a break for a couple of years, just because it's so it's so hard on the body, and then of course being the parent for many years after that just takes your energy out of you. You don't sleep. Imagine 10 children all waking up at different times and crying, and you need to feed all of them. You need to change nappies. I mean, you need an army of people to help you do that. There's no way they can do this on their own.
So we just got a message from Dr. Robin, who is a listener. She says that there is no way that this 10 baby story is true.
Really?
And she's an OBGYN. Maybe we need to get her on, and she can tell us what she thinks.
No, I don't understand why she's saying that. Is she saying it's not true because it's impossible? Is it not true because it sounds fabricated? Well,
I don't know. Looking at that couple,
we'll get
Dr. Robin on. We've got to talk to her about this. This is too curious for us to just let it slide.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that's curious about the news today is that Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, got slapped, and this has also made the headlines. Where was he? He was. He was walking around. He was doing some campaigning or something. He visited some French village, and a woman slapped him in the face. I think it was a woman, right?
It was a man.
No, it was a man. This 43-year-old guy who slapped him.
All right, so let's take it here. Here it is. Take a look at the footage, and then we'll go over this a little bit. This is what needs to happen to politicians some more. Are you going to press play on that side, Sia, or shall I? Let me do it. Here it is.
Bonjour. Oh! Oh!
They go after him pretty hard. I mean, it's very quick. If
I
you
love it.
didn't see it.
I love it. I wish there was a show on this, just like presidents being slapped and having things thrown on them.
There's nobody who doesn't want to see this happen to politicians more, right? I would love this to happen to more. They're always surrounded by bodyguards. They're always in blue light brigades. They're always a little bit further from the people than they need to be. And I think many people in society would be much more inclined to slap politicians if we had access to them more often.
But this is not the first time he's had something thrown on him. I think they threw eggs on him at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, in 2019, they threw, I think, egg on him or something.
Well, you know, there are prime ministers and presidents in countries like Denmark where they will get on a bicycle and go to work. You know, here in South Africa, you need, anytime the president comes anywhere or visits anywhere, even former presidents, they get 23 bodyguards. They've got a whole cavalcade of cars that go before and after them. I mean, you know, it tells you something about how confident they feel that they have to have that many bodyguards.
What I find funny, because it's just extra humiliating in this whole story, is that because since it happened to the president, the presidency has to release a statement, and the French presidency are trying to like wrap the story up as tightly as they can to just focus on rather the good that the president was doing that day. So they're trying to highlight the fact that he was at the school.
Good luck with that.
About how France is, you know, getting back to normal, and he was talking at a high school. He was talking to restaurant owners, but they had to still specify in a statement to say around 1:15 p.m. the president got back into his car after visiting a high school and came back out because onlookers were calling out to him. There were many supporters, but one clearly wasn't as supportive. I'm like, well, sir, please slap the president.
You don't
he's
say.
He's the one, like that video, I kept on watching it over and over again. I love how he's running towards.
Well, this is it. He's putting on a show. You know how these politicians try? I mean, like Joe Biden was trying the other day to look like really vital. So he was eating an ice cream, and he was like, you know, and they jog up to the people. They're like, oh, I'm going to meet my people, and they're going to love me. I mean, look at how enthusiastic he is. Just watch how enthusiastic this Emmanuel Macron is running up, and everything goes horribly wrong.
Bonjour. Oh!
I love it. Because you know what their press secretary says to them: if you run, it'll make you look like you're more energetic and you're more excited to meet the people. So he's thinking about all of that, and then he meets a real member of the public who hasn't got much love for him.
To me, it's like a metaphor for how relationships are today. Like you run towards the relationship, and then it slaps you in the face. Look, I have so many angles. Like I watched this from every angle. But the other thing is, going back to the fact that I think it was in 2019 when they threw eggs on him.
Mm-hmm.
The previous president, I found out, they threw flour on him. But I think the poetic side to it is that it really says a lot about a country, what they care about. I mean, flour, and then there was eggs. You can tell they obviously love bread. So they had to use bread ingredients to throw on their leaders. But I think we need to hear more from the guy who slapped him.
Well,
why don't they interview him? Yeah.
we won't be able to hear much from him and someone who seems to be his friend or someone he worked alongside with, because 2 people were arrested, including the one who actually slapped the president. So yeah, what we don't see from this video is, of course, we saw that the bodyguards were beginning to quickly intervene, but they got the president away from the scene, and then 2 people were arrested. So yeah, they're currently being
so it was more than one person. So they came together and planned this, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Anushka says that she likes the way that the slapper grabbed the president's hand, held it, and then went in for the Warm Club. Legend. Come to South Africa, please. People are so mean. And then Sherilyn wants to ask you something, Sia. Sherilyn says, Sia, what are the dental products that you use? Your teeth are so white.
What?
Okay.
Yeah.
There he is, smiling at the camera. Oh, look at Sia.
Maybe I'm bored with it. Maybe it's. I'm joking.
Yeah, Sia, tell us. Share the secret.
No, the last time I went.
Before we slap you.
Oh, before you slap me, jeez. No, I don't use anything in particular. The last time I went for teeth whitening was easily 2 years ago. That's all. See, I'm an advocate. When I want to do something and when I do something, I will always state it. So I don't believe in.
Is it one of those charcoal things that people use now? You know, people use
I personally described it as a near-death experience because it just freaked me out. There's a lot of zapping, then they put contraptions in your mouth, then they have to shut your mouth, and then you're hearing like a lot of whirling, and then they scrape your teeth clean. But it's
well,
no, but there's actual
they're home kits.
Yeah, that black paste that people also apply, like I think every evening or something. It's looks like it's quite a lot of work.
I've heard of these home kits
walls as well. There's great lighting here. This is why I love being at home, not in studio.
Yeah, there are these home kits that you get, Oneal, which also are available, and I think that people use UV lights and all kinds of things to make it happen.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I've been once for it, and it's a pretty interesting experience because they use hydrogen peroxide, which obviously is a bleach effectively, and what happens is that they put a certain concentration of it on your teeth for an amount of time with the UV light, and then it becomes an oxidizer, and that removes some of the coloring from years of tea and coffee and all the other stuff that you get on your teeth, because even though your teeth are enamel, they do obviously pick up color from all kinds of other things. And I've seen people with such white teeth, especially when you watch these American TV shows, they've got such white teeth that they look completely unnatural. So it's somewhere in between that you need to be.
That's true. I've also seen that. I think there's an acceptable amount of whiteness to teeth.
You know what's going to happen? Someone's going to cut that out, and then it'll be a quote. O'Neil says there's only a certain amount of whiteness that is acceptable.
Too deep. Extra disclaimer there.
Yeah, they'll leave that part out to make it more controversial. You know how the media in this country are. All right, we're going to turn our attention to some other things. Oneil, thanks so much for being with us, my friend. It's always good to catch up with you, and have a wonderful day from here on in. We'll be sure to talk to you again soon. People love having you on.
Okay, guys, I'm off to work. Thank you very much. Oh, how do I do this? You see, I represent the brand.
Let me see the brand. What are we talking about here? Fish and chips. Oh, these. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Give the fish and chip shops a bit of a plug here. Oneil's such an entrepreneur. This guy during lockdown, when people were complaining about not having enough business and being out of work and all that kind of thing, he went from being a DJ to being a chip shop owner and a fish shop owner. I mean, this is just amazing. Where are your shops, and how can we get in there?
We have one in Lawrenceville. We have one in Green Valley, Edenvale, the Greenstone side. We are rolling out these stores. A partner of mine came together. Well, look, credit to him. He put together the recipes for over a year. So him and I talked during the course of that period. And then at some point we decided to go into business together. So now it's doing so well. We are rolling out more stores. We are in talks with a couple of other partners who are interested in helping us, like set up like satellite stores around the country. But look, we offer from our chips are hand cut. We mix our own spices. We mix our own sauces. Our menu, I think at this point in time, we're operating at 80% capacity in less than a year from the minute we opened.
That's phenomenal.
I'm so grateful because business has not been affected by the lockdown for some reason. We've been doing extremely well. We are also on Uber Eats. Well, depending on where you are, because obviously it has
this
to be
is so
within
good.
the radius. Yeah.
This is so great. I'm pleased that we finished on this note, because that's really, it's an inspiring story for many South Africans who've not had the best time, and here you are and you're making things work. I just love it, and congrats to you and your business partners. I think it's so great.
Thank you.
Now you've also made me hungry, but we'll talk to you later.
Okay, man. Cool.
Cheers, Oneal. Cheers. There's O'Neil Madumo. He is well known to the Cliff Central family. He's been a part of our family for a long, long time, from pretty much the get-go of Cliff Central. And he used to host a live show with all the musicians on it. And as you can see, the guy is not only a DJ, he's not only an entertainer, he was on various reality TV shows as well. Now he's also a businessman who owns his own chain of fish and chip shops. And I hear from him they're doing very well. So how fantastic is that? We're going to turn our attention to wellness and health now. And this is exciting. It's a bigger deal than ever to be talking about wellness and health. And this morning, we're going to tell you where you can find credible medical advice. Now, I'm sure that you've heard of Sipla. They are now bringing you a Health Matters series, which puts experts from across the medical world right in your earbuds or speakers. And their aim is to provide topical and relevant information on healthcare with kindness, because health matters. To tell us some more about this, we're going to speak to none other than the CEO of Sipla in South Africa. He is Paul Miller. Paul, it's really good to see you. How are you?
Good morning, Gareth. Good to be on the call this morning. I'm well, thanks.
Listen, I have to give credit to the pharmaceutical companies, because you guys have done a tremendous job of helping us, first of all, to figure out how we're going to get through a very crazy year like last year. And even though you're all in competition with each other, there was an enormous amount of research and development collaboration that happened between all the pharmaceutical companies and between pharmaceutical companies and government. And you guys get a tough PR from the public, from the politicians, from everybody else. You get a really hard line from people. They go, the pharmaceutical companies are just really there to take advantage of us. But it is thanks to Big Pharma and all those hard hours and the huge amounts of money that is spent that we managed to do the miraculous things that we did in the last year, like develop vaccines at record speeds. And I just think that Sipla, as a pharmaceutical company, deserves a bit of credit for the way that you guys and the others have done your job during this pandemic. How has business been for you, and how has the pandemic affected you at Sipla?
Yeah. So, Gareth, thanks for the compliments. At times right now, we probably need as much empathy and support as anyone else would. So thank you for that. I think it's been a tough time for everybody. Me, myself, I contracted COVID over this period. It was quite a shock for my own system. And I think the country as a whole has really taken a lot of strain. And indeed, the whole global village is come together under this real challenge of facing COVID. I think as an organization, you're right. We have to think very hard about our role as a pharmaceutical company. And often at this time, you start thinking about words like strategy, you start thinking about vision, and maybe that's not the right way to go. We started using words like cause and saying that as Sipla, we have a cause, and we don't necessarily want to focus on our vision, but we really want to have a vision which is very clear. And that is that we wanted to make sure that everyone got access to good health care, that no one was excluded. It was equitable in its approach, and also it was done, and you used the word in the beginning, with a lot of kindness. And I think that's the approach we've adopted in the early part. It's also forced us as an organization to think very differently. And you've seen how the pharmaceutical sector has responded. We've had to rethink the way we do trials. We've had to reconsider how we develop drugs. And the rate and pace in which many treatments came to market, not all were vaccines. Many of them were monoclonal antibodies, many of them were antivirals, and we got these to the market in record time and worked with health authorities like Sipla and FDA across the world to make a difference. But that said, it is a collective responsibility, working with the government, working with the public, as well as the pharmaceutical sector.
No, I think it's really is praiseworthy. And, this pandemic has thrown everybody into overdrive, and we've all had to figure out ways of doing things that we probably didn't know much about before, getting those trials out quicker, making sure that we do extra research and development, working through the night, spending a whole lot more money, testing it on different things that perhaps with the benefit of huge amounts of time that we had before, we just didn't have this time around. But I'm interested also in this move into podcasts, because the biggest loser in this whole situation with coronavirus has been public trust and the idea of who we can believe and who we can actually look to for the truth when it comes to, we've seen Dr. Anthony Fauci's been through a really tough time in the last couple of weeks because it suddenly come out that he wasn't necessarily 100% honest with us every step of the way, or maybe he was just figuring it out. We've seen all kinds of confusion around Zweli Mkhize and this media company. People are just looking for places where they can actually trust the information, especially when it comes to healthcare. And I have too many friends, and I'm sure you do too, who go online when they're feeling sick and they Google something, and then you start thinking all the worst things. And you have to speak to professionals. You have to speak to the doctors, the scientists. And this is where you guys have decided to get into podcasts, right?
Look, it's interesting because, you played that clip just now of the president getting stopped in France.
Yes.
It's humorous, but it's actually quite insightful. Because what simple research has shown at this time is that the public's trust in government has dropped to an all-time low, but yet they're now looking to corporates to provide clarity and direction. And it's interesting to see that the public is actually believing that their own companies, their own organizations will take better care of them than maybe many of the formal institutions that they've relied upon in the past. So what this says is, I think more and more people are looking for independent sources of data and are wanting to get information which they feel is not being spiced up with an agenda, or for that matter, is being driven through some commercial premise. So with us, when we set our strategy, sorry, Gareth.
Sorry, even political, because that's where a lot of it has gone. I mean, a lot of the science has been politicized. So people go, well, actually, I just want to know whether this is healthy for me or not. I just want to know whether I'm doing the right thing for my family, whether I'm putting the right things into my body, whether I'm avoiding unnecessary risks. That's what people really want, right?
Correct. And what we've seen is an incredible hunger for more information on how to stay healthy and how to keep myself, strong, with my immune system as strong as I can make it during the COVID period. So we believe by putting a podcast together, which is independent, which is actually a source of information that's going to help guide you in terms of how do you keep healthy, how do you keep fit, how do you deal with pain, how do you make sure that your chronic diseases are well controlled and maintained? Because we know if that's well controlled, your chances of surviving COVID are even greater. So we're trying to become that independent source. And we have no agenda here in terms of trying to push products or any particular disease, but rather just provide information to empower people's decision making.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because, obviously there are going to be cynical people who go, oh, okay, so Sipla are getting into podcasting because they're trying to flog stuff. But I mean, podcasting, and I can say this having been in the business of podcasting for as long as we have, the people who come to a podcast are looking for the truth and they're looking for good advice. And this is exactly the way to put it together for them. So you've given us some idea of what the series is about. It's about helping to answer these questions, to give good advice. Are there specifics that you want to throw in there? And tell us how you think it will benefit the business, because obviously you're not doing it just as a PR move, and you're not doing it as a kind of altruistic service. You also have some solutions which benefit the business too. It's, one hand kind of helps the other.
You see, you've got to also understand where we're coming from. We're a generic company, a pharmaceutical company that is driven by one purpose. And that one purpose is that we see a future where good health can be expected by everyone. It shouldn't be based upon your ability to pay. It shouldn't be based upon your ability to access medicine because you've got the bank account to support it. And when we brought HIV medicines to this country, we took it from being what was 150,000 Rand a year all the way down to 100 Rand a month. And that just drove unprecedented access to HIV medicines. So we also believe when it comes to healthcare, there shouldn't be restrictions on getting access to good healthcare advice. And that's the intention behind the podcast, that we can do it with kindness, that we can do it equitably. And I think the podcast is probably the most accessible source of information. So you will get information on how do you protect yourself during COVID period. You will get information on any questions that you may have around building your immune system, your health systems. And it's going to be drawing on a lot of experts, people that are independent, and you will see that the content will be very much focused on satisfying the questions that you may have that you mentioned earlier on when you Google for your health.
I love this. I mean, I think there is no amount of info that's too much at this point for people. And they do want to know, you hinted at something here that I think is so important, your immune system, because that is your most powerful weapon against not just COVID, but everything. And if you have a bunch of experts who you guys are going to help us get together, I know that this is hosted by Ryan O'Connor. He's going to be the host. You're going to provide all kinds of healthcare information. I think it's just terrific that this is being launched. When do you go live?
It's pretty much running. So it's called Healthcare Matters, and this was Ryan O'Connor. And I think he's a well-known individual. And again, we have to pick someone in the healthcare environment or that's got any axe to grind. So I think it's going to be accessible. It's going to be something which is going to attract a lot of people's attention. So hopefully it meets the need.
I love it. Paul, well done to you and your team for doing this. I think it's so important that businesses start to realize the power of podcasting and the credibility that it can give to the people who you guys engage with on a daily basis for the audience that we all talk to on podcasts. And again, I have to say, without feeling any sense of trying to butter you up in this respect, it is thanks to the pharmaceutical companies, it's thanks to businesses like Discovery and all the rest of it that we will get our population vaccinated, that we'll get our population healthy again. And if we didn't have you guys and we were reliant just on the public health sector, we'd be in a lot of trouble. So I'm pleased, and I know you do stuff with public health as well in South Africa, so it's not like I'm trying to demonize them, but it is largely due to private healthcare and to private pharmaceutical businesses that we're able to get out of this mess that we've been in, that the whole world's been in.
Yeah, and I think what COVID has done, Gareth, it's forced various stakeholders to have to work together. So the partnership between the public sector, the private sector has never been stronger. Between the private sector and clinical scientists has never been stronger. So I think it's forced us to come together with one common endpoint, and I think it's reset probably where healthcare is going. I think the days of seeing a dichotomy of public and private are probably coming to an end. And I think it's going to become more and more of a challenge for us to work closer together and to realize that we can't do it alone and we can't be seeing each other as counterparts, but rather as compatriots.
I love it. Paul, thank you so much for being on with us this morning and telling us about the series. It will be available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer, and Iono. And Sipla are trying to ensure that they get you accurate information from credible medical experts. It'll make it an easy way to digest and remember and then hopefully implement in your own life. And that'll be hosted by Ryan O'Connor. It's called Healthcare Matters. Thank you very much to the CEO of Sipla in South Africa, Paul Miller. Nice to see you.
Cheers, Gareth. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, Paul. That's useful. The more the merrier, I always say. When it comes to podcasting, the more people we can get on here, the more we can educate, inform, inspire, and entertain our audiences, the better. And in this case, when it comes to this stuff, I think it's awesome. So well done to them for getting into podcasting, and well done to all the pharmaceutical companies. As much as we demonize them for being, big pharma when we talk about these things, look at how they've rescued the world and got us back to normal quicker than usual. Where they would, if we relied on, what do you think? If we just relied on government, we would have got here? Not a chance. Who do you think is doing all the research and development? Think it's Zweli Mkhize with Digital Vibes? I beg to differ.
I just legitimately wonder if government doesn't feel bad about being shown up and
no, as Paul, I don't think it's one or the other. See, as Paul was saying, it's like a public-private health partnership, and these things are important. There is a way that they can cooperate together, and obviously there are many, many millions of people in South Africa who rely on the public healthcare service, and sometimes it delivers and sometimes it doesn't. We have very good doctors in our public healthcare service, and we have very good nurses, and we have people who are trying very hard to help and to make things better for the poor and the rich in South Africa. But when it comes to the cost of actually developing new drugs and that stuff, that's big money. Hey, you can't have a taxpayer foot that bill, because sometimes the benefits in terms of profitability are just outweighed by the cost of research and development. So it's a balancing act, and I'm pleased we got to speak to Paul. He's the first CEO of any health company we've had on the show, and I'm just delighted that they're talking, because it is important for them to also explain to people what's going on, what they're working on, and where they can be helpful. So that's really useful. Well, it's interesting. There are lots of comments here about good health and keeping your immune system up. It's, like that's such an important part of what Bulelo always says. And I know Bulelo's a smart ass and a lot of people find him irritating. but he and Ben and, a number of other people, the first thing they do is they take responsibility for their own health. They're like, I'm not going to just eat whatever I want. I'm not going to not do any exercise. I'm going to make sure that I am fit and healthy, because that's your best chance against anything, not just coronavirus. And what I love,
I think those,
No, what I love about it is, like, they're not looking for someone else to blame or to solve their problem. They start with themselves. You see these people who look at you funny if you don't have a mask on when you get out of the car, and they weigh like 400 kilograms, and they expect you to be responsible for their health, and they can't even look after their own body. To me, I'm just not going to take someone like that seriously anymore. You can't, right?
I think those who are annoyed by a Mbulelo or by a Ben are annoyed simply because what Ben and Mbulelo say is just hitting home very, very particularly.
Yeah, it hurts. I think that's right.
It might be a tough pill to swallow for some of us. So actually, if we want things to change, we need to change them ourselves, so that, I'm yet to meet even these great big bodybuilders and Mark Wahlberg or whoever, or Dwayne The Rock Johnson, who say they enjoy going to gym. It's about just that discipline and that commitment to it. God bless you if you actually wake up at 4 a.m. and whistling a tune as you skip to the gym. I don't know. Yeah. That would never be me.
Well, good, especially if you're doing it in this cold weather. My God, it takes a huge amount of motivation to actually go to the gym when you're feeling as cold as we are now. Just to reiterate then, if you are looking for that podcast, it's called Health Matters, HEALTH Matters, and you will find it on all of the different podcast servers. Go and take a look, see whether it's the kind of thing that might interest you. It's not a Cliff Central production, but we think it's good to support all of these podcasts, and we'd like you to go and check it out. So if you're interested in Health Matters, go and check it out. Health Matters with Ryan O'Connor as a host, and that's brought to you by Sipla. Very nice. Lots of people saying we've still got to like and subscribe. So Sia, it's your turn to do it. Let's do this quickly. We may as well do it twice in a show. There's no harm in reminding people. So here nice it is, everybody. There we go. Sia Sangha.
Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Oh, you know what we need? Because all YouTubers have this. We need a name for our viewers, so they call, hi guys, thank you so much for supporting us, Bieber Nights.
Oh, no. We're not going to do that. No. We're not giving anybody as a group a nickname. That's never a good plan.
Well, the YouTubers do it. Remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Just to make sure that you get notifications whenever we release a new video.
That's very nice, Sia. You know who we need is this family.
Oh, no.
We have more listeners than any other podcast in the world. If we just get this family with their 10 babies to listen to us, I don't think they'd be a bigger show. It'd be huge.
Wait, is it? It's a running joke for some people to say they have so many family members or they have so many siblings they could make their own soccer team.
Mm-hmm.
This family literally could, isn't it?
It's one short. They one short. So if their dad is in the goals, they've got a full team.
Well, the full team is what, 11?
Mm-hmm.
If we go by the earlier reports, remember they have 6-year-olds.
Oh yeah, they've got 2 others. So they've even got a reserve.
They have a full team and a reserve.
That's great. That's awesome. Carl says, I'm at the gym right now. I do enjoy it and it helps with stress. If I don't go, it messes with my head. So it's important. Yeah, but don't underestimate your bravery in actually getting dressed, putting on warm clothes, going to the gym, standing, outside the door if you're up there early enough, and then going in and actually doing the heavy lifting, so to speak. It's not good. That's really not good. Then somebody's asking here, how about hangers on? We hang on to the cliff. Great collective nickname. I don't want to give anybody a nickname that they didn't ask for. I don't want to do that. It's terrible. Gen X wants to know, I haven't been around. Does Gord still come on the show? Well, Gord will be making a star appearance every now and then, but he can't do it every week now because he's got some serious job, which is going to keep him busy for most of the days. But he did say he will join us more regularly. And we did speak to Ben last Friday, and he'll be making a regular Friday appearance. So it's exciting stuff. We're going to have lots of interesting people coming on in the next while. We always got to keep moving the show forward. And this is no exception. Whether Gord's there or not, we obviously love Gord to pieces and we love having him on. But we will have to do what we can to get everybody on when you want them and as much as you want them. Just quickly, apparently there is this South Korean industrial.
Start laughing first, I don't know
Yeah.
what to say.
Well, you know how much interest we got and how much commentary we got and how many people were obsessed with that story about the Italian sculptor who made the invisible sculpture.
Oh, wow. That he sold for thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Yes.
And people just couldn't believe how dumb that was. Well, there is a South Korean industrial designer who's come out with a detachable third eye, which is for people who can't take their eyes away from the screen long enough to stop themselves walking into a wall or some other obstacle. So how does this third eye work? Well, this is I don't even know how to begin to explain this. You've seen the pictures. What do you make of this, Sia? Is this another stupid gimmick?
I just think it is a sad day in the world when we have to have a contraption like this because people can't look up away from their phones. So think about what a miner wears. A miner, they have that protective helmet that has the light right on the top. And instead of a light, it's basically a camera that scopes out the land as someone is walking and will alert a person if there's an object in place and if they're about to walk into something just because they aren't looking up from their phones.
Oh my God. We have to wear
So
this
ridiculous.
now.
So
I love those videos of people who are walking and then they bump into like a street light or a signpost or whatever it is, because they can't even be bothered to look up from their phone for 5 seconds to make sure that they first of all, don't walk and text. Don't walk and read your phone. You're going to end up hurting yourself. There's a very, very funny video that someone sent me a long time ago. I can't find it now, otherwise I'd play it for you. But there's this couple walking and she's on the phone and he's holding her hand and she doesn't see this sign and she just walks face first into it because she's so busy on her phone.
So stupid. So this guy is 28 years old. His name is Pang Min Wook, and he has developed this robotic eyeball. He's called it the third eye, and it's translucent and connects to your phone. So whenever it senses that you as a user have your head lowered and you're looking at your smartphone and you're about to come into contact with something within 1 or 2 meters, the device begins to beep and it will warn you of the impending danger. So he says, look, he also didn't really think that this is what he wanted to create, but he says this is what the future is sadly looking like. The future of mankind with 3 eyes, as we cannot take our eyes off from our smartphones. This extra eye will be needed in future.
Well, less screens maybe, but this is like a little bit more technology. I would love to just get to a point where we're actually disciplined enough to have this many hours a day for screen time, that many hours a day without any technology around us. Otherwise, we are going to be in trouble. I mean, it's bound to eventually do us huge damage. We can't integrate with these machines perfectly. People have forgotten already how to talk to each other, how to look each other in the eye, how to have normal conversations, how to actually meet in person. You know, we joked with Litlem Simang, who's on our show tonight. So what now? ENCA this evening, 10 o'clock. Don't miss it. Channel 403. She's a comedian. And we also, by the way, have Gauteng McKenzie on, and his story is absolutely unbelievable. You don't want to miss it. He has such powerful things to say too. He's bound to ruffle all the feathers this evening. But Litle was saying, like, her kid is 2 years old, and he doesn't know about a world before masks. To him, masks are part of how humans have always lived. You're going to have to explain to this kid as he grows up, no, that's not what we used to do. It's what he knows.
See, I think that there's good and bad of how fast we're evolving as humans. I like that. Well, I mention a story like this of the third eye, and I judge how and where we're going when it comes to technology. But in the same breath, one of the things I discovered this week, I'm not saying I'm going to necessarily buy it just yet, but you know how when you're watching something from bed, either on your laptop or if you have a TV in your room, and you're getting comfortable to a certain extent, but you just want to like actually lie down, but still have full view of whatever you're watching. Well, there's a pair of glasses. If you can imagine, you're lying on your back on your bed, and you have these glasses on, and they're almost in a shape of an L or an upside down L. And inside that L is like a bit of a prism situation or reflectors, so that as you are lying down horizontally, you can still view what is in front of you. Like,
oh, it's so lazy.
90 degrees.
So lazy. And you looked at this and you thought you might buy it.
Not just yet. I thought I am going to consider it, but I think it's a very slippery slope.
Please
up until
don't.
then, you know, I'm one of those 100.
There are people who have their TVs mounted in the ceiling, so they can lie flat on their back and watch TV.
I mean, are we going to judge that, or can't we actually congratulate people who thought about doing that?
No, we're going to judge the hell out of that.
It's a slippery slope.
You mean it's too much? You mean it's too much to ask for you to actually just sit up and watch? I mean, imagine if I started doing this show while I was lying down. You just come to me while I'm in my bed in the mornings, and we'll just do the show from there. It's nice and lazy. I mean, if you can't even be asked to sit up, put your shoulders back, address people in a respectful way. No. We'll just do the show from.
You just hate those neck pains, those cramps that you get. Yeah. Too overrated. Lie down, be horizontal 24/7.
Well, that's all we got time for this morning. We will see you tomorrow bright and early at 6 o'clock. And from cliffcentral.com, there's also lots of other good content you can go and check out, plus some of the stuff you may not have heard that we've already done over the last 7 years. Go and take a look. It's all on our website. Plenty of good stuff there. We will see you tomorrow at 6 o'clock, bright and early.